Hi folks, how are you this evening? Hope you had a great Monday. Yeah, week's just getting started out here. So, I'm not sure if any of you caught. I wanted to do because there was a European holiday, excuse me, and a bank holiday, European bank holiday, and a pound bank holiday, UK bank holiday. Basically, I wanted to wait to see what the market sort of did here this week before we started getting too involved with what we're doing here. So I elected to hold off on putting out a pre-recorded market review. So hopefully that didn't throw too many of you off for the week. Apologize on that one. Plus, it was a long weekend as well. So we're just going to start easing into this week here. Not rushing into anything or anything like that. So anyway, looking at the charts, and I'm sure you're all very aware of what the news is doing, so I'll just pull that up here real quick. As you can see, news for Tuesday, we have some Australian dollar news. Going into Wednesday, we have some euro, some cable, Canadian dollar Bank of Canada monetary policy report, so you make sure you're aware of that. Just careful trading the Canadian dollar this week. I've got some ideas on Canadian dollar I'll share with you as well too. An Australian bank holiday going into Wednesday, and then there's some tentative potential monetary policy statements regarding the yen coming up on Wednesday as well. So keep in mind of that. Hang on one second, guys. Apologize. Sorry about that. Yeah, so there's a yen holiday. Yen monetary policy statements coming up, and yen's been going sideways if you guys have been following the yen at all. So it's kind of probably a timely decision as to when this monetary policy is coming out, as to why it's been consolidating. They're leading up and building up right to the main event here, which is going to take us into Wednesday. So I'll bring that up real quick as well. And then we have an Italian bank holiday, which shouldn't do too much on Thursday for the euro. And then, again, core durable goods news on Thursday, and then wrapping up the week with a advanced GDP numbers coming out on Friday for the US dollar. So all in all, not a bad week shaping up. Couple of landmines that you want to avoid. Again, Canadian dollar for Wednesday, and the yen for, it's tentatively set Wednesday, so hopefully they'll firm this up here, but it'll be either late in the day or early in the day Thursday. Okay, so hopefully that is burnt into your memory, and we can get into the charts. So going to the US dollar, we had a nice pop out of here, finally out of this consolidation range last Friday, and it's looking good. It's finally, I'm hoping we finally picked a direction. Going through this block of price was a bit of a pain in the ass. You know, it was, you could get in and out for 20 pips, 30 pips here or there. Yeah, I managed to do that several times, and I managed to put out a couple of decent levels for you guys. Hopefully you took advantage of some of them. But for the most part, they were pretty short-lived, pretty short runs. You know, we weren't grabbing 100 pips a day or, 80 pips a day. Every now and then you get a two-day runner for, 60, 70, 80 pips. I think I hit a euro trade last week for, was it last week, or I think it was early last week for about 60 pips. But it was like a two-day runner it took that thing to materialize. So, like I say, it just, it was a bit frustrating last week. But all in all, last couple of weeks, I should say. This thing's been doing this sideways action since March 28th, so we're actually coming up now almost on a month, so 3 weeks for sure that we've been in this. So, like I say, it's nice to see. I'm hoping that we're going to push out of this and it's going to continue to run higher, and not that we're going to drop all the way back in. And so I have these two levels here. I have 96.84 on the chart and 96.70. Basically, what I'm suggesting here, very simple. We have price come down to 96.84. I'm hoping for an immediate reaction and a push higher. I don't want to see that go any lower. I will, however, permit it to go down just slightly, just 14 little pips, and this right here is my line in the sand, 96.70. I don't want to see price go any lower than that level right there. If it does, then again, I think we're just going to return back in here, and I mean, maybe it'll stretch under this level here. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll just keep banging around. Maybe it'll pop down and then rip up. I don't know. 96.84 should have a level of sensitivity at it, so I'm hoping that's where it's going to start running. If we lose the low on yesterday, so we're now trading into Tuesday, this is the low created on Monday's trading, and the low comes in at 96.90, you can call it. So I'm hoping that that is the low, and that we'll just start building off of there. I will permit it to go down to 96.84. I'm hoping to see a reaction there. And again, my absolute line in the sand is if we lose 96.84, I'm going to hold off on anything, obviously, and wait. But the likelihood, in my opinion, is going to diminish that this thing will remain bullish if 96.70 is traded to or through, especially. So that's why I'm thinking those two levels. On the upside, though, clear upside target, 97.60. Let me just make this an even number. That's my target, basically just coming up above here. I don't think we're going to stretch all the way up there this week. I could be proven wrong, certainly. I don't see any major monetary policy. I'm sorry, not monetary policy. I don't see any major news drivers on the U.S. dollar that would warrant a big stretch up like that. That would be almost, well, not quite a dollar, I guess, about 70 cents, a little under 70-cent movement. Now, when you consider the biggest range that I'm seeing here was the range on Friday, and it's from its low at 96.60 up to its high at 97.10. We're basically, you know, it would take one big candle to get up there, obviously. We could certainly do it. I think they're going to be a little more dramatic about it, personally. I think they'll probably just start to stair-step it up there. Hopefully I'm wrong. I mean, I'd love it if they just blew this thing straight higher, because we know going higher, once we clear this high here, I'm not saying it's going to be a straight shot, but I know their overall intention. We know they're going to go up to 98.40 level, and that's where I think the money is sitting. And so, like I say, I'll be watching the U.S. dollar going into Tuesday. What I'd like to see, we're just starting, London is just starting to come open online now. The traders are getting in front of their desks and analyzing their trades for the day. So I'm kind of hoping that we're going to see a bit more of a run down here. Like I say, I'd like to see it just swing below the low from yesterday. If it doesn't hit that low and doesn't want to go below that, that's still fine too, in my opinion. I'm just thinking for all, the best trade entry price, it would give us a better entry down here if we saw an immediate reaction off of this level. You know, I'm kind of hoping that 96.84 is going to have the ultimate sensitivity and just expand and run. Again, it doesn't have to come down to that level, but we will be watching it. So that's sort of what I'm thinking. And like I say, if 96.70 comes in, I'm going to sit on the sidelines, I think, until this thing. I will not go short, anticipate a short sell on the U.S. dollar. You know, if we come down to 96.70 and below, I'm not going to anticipate a short sell or anything like that, because I don't know what they're going to reach for on the downside. I mean, we come down here and made a clear push up above it, and we had one quick stop run right here that ran under that low just by literally a tick, I think it got it, or a pip it got underneath it. 96.33 and 96, if I can get it on there. No, I can't. You can see on the bottom right-hand corner of my screen. The low comes in at 96.33.9, so like half a pip underneath this guy here, so a pipette underneath. So anyway, that is my analysis on the U.S. dollar. So I'm hoping, like I say, bullish prices continuing this week. Hopefully to see a low starting to form here in the next couple of hours, and then an immediate push off of that low and a run for the sky. So if we cross back over, to the Euro USD, we can obviously see the exact opposite happening. We've got two double pumps below this old low under here, and a very shallow retracement thus far. If I put a fib on this, actually, you can see how shallow that retracement is. It pretty much came, the wicks came up just about the middle of that range, of this whole range right here, and failed to get any higher. I personally would have liked them to run above these. I can't really see it that well, but I would have personally liked to see them run above these highs right there, Let me zoom in a little bit and get above there, but you can see like they tried 1, 2, 3, 4 times and then finally fell off very steeply last week. So, you know, if at the end of the day they had a chance to go lower, I'm sorry, they came down here and retagged off this consolidation level once down here, and then they came down again, and the low on this guy came in at 112.28, and the low on this guy came in at 112.25, and so they've got the low under here by 3 pips. In my opinion, I don't really see the need for them to have to go all the way back down here again. Now, one of two things, we could just be rebalancing again, picking up more long positions off of these consolidation levels in here, and then we could see a pump higher, because there are 2 equal highs up there that I believe are definitely going to be a target. Again, time will tell. Like my line in the sand again, so I've got it on the US dollar, which will tell us a lot sooner than the euro, I believe. And I've got it on the euro here at 112.75. That's my line in the sand. I don't want to see, I want to see a reaction at 112.75. I might give it maybe 5-10 pips on the upside at the very most. But if we start running back into 11300, you know, getting up into this range in here, I've got no interest in seeing anything going short. More than likely, they're going to position this to try to take the highs up in here, and then maybe we'll see that run above this old high right there. But this was a fairly convincing sell-off here. So again, same as the US dollar, but in reverse. I'm looking for just a quick pop above yesterday's high in here, maybe up to 112.70, certainly no higher. 112.75, certainly no higher. And then I want to see price roll off to the downside. Because again, we do have targets to the downside. We're looking at 110.20 on the downside, which is a nice 130 pips away. So if we get a clean entry going into Tuesday's trading today is what I'm hoping for. Then I might even just stack up a trade and obviously take some at logical profit areas that we all know how to do, but also to leave a little piece on to see if we can't get this full swing target down here. And, you know, I think maybe by... Sorry, folks, my printer just decided to start cleaning itself out of the blue for no reason. So I think, like I say, this would be a nice range here. I don't think it's going to give it to us right away, but, you know, this could be a good 3-week to a month target out for sure. Once we start running down these lows here, I think these lows here are going to fall pretty easy, and then I'd be looking for them to rebalance down here. That's what I'm looking on euro, but again, it all depends on what we're going to see here going into Tuesday's trading. And there's that 112.75 level right there. I do not want to see them go any higher than that. I want to see them just come up, and I'll put the day dividers on here so you can see. This was Monday's trading here. I'm sorry, my apologies. This was last week's trading here. So I basically just want to see them come up and just maybe run these 2 highs right in here, just briefly. Run up and then reject just as quick. And then start making moves down to the lower side. So that's what I'm looking at on euro. So we'll see what happens. You know, again, we're just coming off a bank holiday, so they're just kind of shaking off the dust from the Easter long weekend. In terms of all the bankers and all the traders and everything over in London. And so they're just getting fired up here now. I would imagine we'll probably start to see the market start to move here by about 2 o'clock a.m. New York time. We should start to see this thing really start moving. So I'm hoping to see, basically, if I haven't spelt it out for you enough, this. And then a continuation lower. If this level in here gets run through, I'm going to wait and watch on this one. You could even set, I might even set a limit order, I don't know, in my demo account, but I'd maybe set it for right about there. And just be cautious of the dealer spread, but I'd have a super tight stop on it, not wanting it to go any higher, because again, we do have these 2 equal highs up here. It's not very far from that. So the other move they could do, I think it's less likely, and but it certainly is possible, and we're about 70 pips away. Again, if we lose this level in here and price keeps chugging, you could get in on a long position and you could try to target these highs up in here, because I think there would be a run of about 10 to 20 pips I'll just put it in at the 20 level right there, which would sort of bring us back into the lows of this consolidation area right in here, which I believe, again, could potentially be a target. So if they don't want to take the downside yet, and I was looking for them to do this last week, so this is nothing new. This didn't just materialize out of anywhere. I've been looking and watching price, and I thought last week they were going to do it. They were so close right in here to get up. They're so close in here to get up above these highs last week, and they just failed to do so and really smashed the market down and just ran this low here. So again, one of two things is happening here. These are the highs, and they're going to leave those highs intact there for the next little while, and they're going to push this thing lower, and we're going to see them run to that 110.20 level. Or again, they're going to push and take all the levels above here, because I mean, you got to think, everyone going short, where's the most obvious place they're going to run their stops? They're going to put them all right above here. So if you got short from last week, where's your stop going? It's all there. There's a ton of orders sitting right above here, and I think that could certainly be the target that we may be looking for. But again, I want to see sensitivity right at this level right here. I don't want to see them go any higher than that. If they do, not a problem, because you can obviously take the opposite side. You wait for them to push it up, and then just get in on a down candle and hold for a quick, 50 to 60 pip run. I wouldn't expect them to run it much higher than this level, than 113.40 to the upside. That, I believe, would be the highest it would go. And again, I'm giving you sort of two options here to go off, because right now, again, I'm still looking at the US dollar saying, well, they had a nice convincing push up in here. Monday didn't go anywhere and actually fell back down, and so far Tuesday we're just waiting to see. So I want to play both sides. Again, if we see that push on euro up into here, they may just come in and then run this thing all the way down into here. So again, I'm just trying to make sure that we're covering all our bases here, because that is a big, obviously blinking light above those areas here saying, come and run up and grab me, because I'm prime candidate to get hit on the stops. So we'll see how that goes in, playing out into Tuesday's trading. I'll be looking for something in here, and I'll be looking for a downside target. That's option one, and that's plan A. And then plan B, again, if we lose that, then I'll be looking to get long on a down candle after it breaches this level in here, and then I'll be looking to get in. So what I mean by that, just in case you guys aren't too familiar, if we get price ending up running through here, I'm basically going to be of the opinion where, price will trade up, it'll make that initial surge, and then it'll come back down and retest a lower level, and then we'll see this happen. Not necessarily exactly like that, but I wouldn't be getting long in here. I would wait for this candle to come back down and retrace wherever it may be. It may not be here. It could be higher, obviously, but I'd be looking to get in there and then maximizing my target up, which would be up into here. So that's sort of what I'm looking for as a plan B. So you got it, plan A, plan B, and again, line in the sand on US dollar. If we see this fall off, then I mean, they could really start sending this guy higher, and I don't believe we're going to see that, but anything is possible. Speaking of anything possible, cable is still just sitting sideways here. Like, they're just so close to taking these lows out. I've been talking about these lows for a while. I've wanted them to come all the way back down and recapitalize those areas after this swing low in here. Didn't get it, unfortunately, and I was really hoping they would have, but I saw some sensitivity off of this candle here, and a nice push higher ran the stops there, and now it's just really been slowly trickling down. So one of two things. Again, we're going to come back down in here and clean up this. There's a little bit of a gap right under here. Not too significant, but we could see price run all the way down there. And I'm basically just looking for a run. And if you look at this too, like they come down once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times in the past couple of months, and they haven't run back down. And so anyone who's going long is looking at this and saying, well, this is all support in here, so let's get long and we'll just jam our stop right under here, or maybe even right under this swing low here. I think that's what they're hunting for, and they're going to probably push this thing down. And I think there's a good chance that they could reject it pretty quickly. Now, the other option, as you can see, we had this big tight range in here, and then they dropped it nicely early last week, middle of last week, I guess it would have been. The other option is they come back up pretty much off of where this line is right here, and then potentially try to drop it. But if we lose this level here, I'm going to be a little less, a little more hesitant, I should say, on the downside. They could want to just jam it back up in this range. Now, keep in mind, Brexit is still afoot, and there's really no telling what this thing could do with that going on. So bear that in mind. Any trade on cable, you got to make sure you dial back your leverage until that whole mess gets sorted out. And I believe here very shortly they will have a resolution to everything. So I'm hoping to get back to better days of trading with cable, because this used to be a great pair to trade. But as of late, it's been pretty messy, especially when you look at this price in here. Like, it basically just looks like a descending wedge, really. When you look at that, all these levels are just bottoming out right here, and the highs that they're coming in are just getting lower and lower and lower. So it's like they're just compressing and compressing and compressing and down, and they're right down into the corner of this little apex right down here. So that's the wrong word, not the apex, the corner of this triangle in here. And so it's going to tell us one way or another what it wants to do in a very quick hurry here, I believe. But there is the off chance, like I say, that they could shoot it back up into here, and it could bounce around this range for a little while. Hoping they don't do that, and I'm hoping that we're going to see this thing finally break to the downside. But just keep in mind, it is cable, and anything is certainly possible. If I see anything that materializes on this that I think is a high-quality setup, I will certainly let you guys know that. You know, again, I kind of like this level in here, but I'd be real cautious on getting too over leveraged with anything on cable. That would be nice if they did that, but that being said, I mean, that would be a 40 pip run in the opposite direction. There wasn't a lot of cable news on that news release coming into this week for cable, so let me just double check that as I speak. Yeah, there's a medium impact news event on Wednesday, and that's really about it. I don't know that that would be enough to drive it, but, you know, that being said, if Euro GBP corrects and we see price pushed down on this pair a little bit, it could give the cable enough fuel to run up into there. And then same type of thing as the euro, you know, if we see that little pop, and it's not as far away, like we're about 20 pips or so away from that entry there, so it is certainly possible that that cable could get all the way up there. But again, I'd be watching this level right in here. I definitely would not want to see it go any higher than that. That's pretty much my line in the sand right there. I don't think they need to come back up into here or anything like that, and certainly not up into here. So if we do see that run up in there, I'd be interested in entertaining downside targets, with the ultimate goal, hopefully we could actually finally get and break through this low. But like I say, this is the problem with this, is how many times have they come down here and rejected? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, call it. Could this be another one of these where they just come down just, a couple of pips lower and then reject and we pop higher for 3 days? Certainly possible. Again, with the cable, it's a little unpredictable. So I kind of like the euro a little bit better setup wise, but again, we'll start to have to see how they Tuesday's trading starts panning out. Okay, moving along, Canadian dollar in traditional fashion right before monetary policy release is going sideways, and it's actually been doing that since the start of April. So we're coming up on 3 weeks of doing this now, so it'll be nice here for them to finally get out of this range. Again, monetary policy, it is predicted, I believe, that the Canadian dollar, the Bank of Canada, will stay their interest rates at current levels. And I believe, just give me 1 second, I just want to pull it up for you guys. So this news, 1.75%, they've been holding it at. And it is predicted that they are going to hold that off. So, sorry, I'm kind of reading as I'm talking here. And I just want to find out what the date on this most recent article is. Yeah, so this was a couple months ago, early March, but basically Governor Poles had come on early March and said we're going to stay it off, and there's really no shying away from the fact that especially Canada, there is absolutely no market. I mean, there's no recovery. The economy has been very, very stagnant. There's a lot of talk about it going into a bit of a recession. So the last thing they're going to start doing is jacking the interest rates up. Now, just keep in mind that if they do, on the off chance, I mean, we never know what they want to do, that they'll be pushing this thing lower if they jack the rates up. But I think if they, as predicted, are going to keep them the same, at least until third quarter of this year anyway, I don't believe they're going to change anything. And if that's the case, then I believe we're going to run this thing higher. Certainly, you look at this, and I mean, certainly you can see some obvious levels. They came down, pushed it below, ran all the stops underneath here, rejected instantly, and look what they've left here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times they tried to get above this high in these highs in here and have failed to do so. Ultimate target, in my opinion, I believe 135.60 to the upside. Slide this over here now. Close enough. And I think ultimately that's the ultimate target. So if we do get that push in US dollar, it'll drag that CAD rate up. And what will give it fuel to that fire, what will add to it, is going to be this interest rate announcement that's coming out on Wednesday. So it's going to be more sideways price action. We'll probably have an inside day range. By that, I mean inside day range of this candle right here going into Tuesday and right up until that news release, which doesn't come out until 10 a.m. New York time. So it's about a midday news announcement on the Canadian dollar. And that's when I believe they're going to push up and they're going to take out these highs right here. Hopefully they're going to get above this high here and eventually this high. Those are down the road though, and I'm not too concerned about those. I want to see them get above this, and then we'll worry about the next objective and the next one, and then ultimately I think it's going to get drug up to there. But that's sort of what I'm seeing on the Canadian dollar. Now again, we could have an inside day range, so we could just see price just moving sideways. I don't think they're going to cover a ton of ground, and I don't think they're going to need, if you look at this low here compared to this low, that was a stop run. It was just they were down there and then immediately rejected to run higher, and they're really building a lot of sentiment up here. I think a lot of people are saying, well, this is resistance up in here, so I'm going to tuck my stop rate up in here and I'm going to go short on this because whatever reason they thought this was a topping pattern, and price was going to continue to go lower. In my opinion, I think the opposite is going to happen. I believe we're going to run these highs here, and then eventually we're going to get up into here. Whether we get all the way up to here, we'll have to see. That could be, who knows, into the summer when that decides to get up there. But for now, these are the targets that I'm looking for. And I have this target on the downside, 13300, just as my line in the sand on the Canadian dollar. If price trades all the way back down there, then I'm not very convinced that they're going to want to take those highs here yet, and they could just roll this thing over to get spots a little bit lower, which is what I was hoping they were going to do on this run here back down. I wanted to see them come back down into here, but it was pretty short-lived there, a couple of wicks down and then rejected, and away we go. And you look again, same thing as the US dollar, like you look at the level of confluence and the level of consolidation that we're seeing right in here. I mean, this is a very shallow range. I mean, it's only a 60 pip range, and look how long price has really spent in there. So especially this last month, just been painful watching this. So I'm hoping we're finally going to break out of this, and I believe the breakout is going to come to the upside, and I think they're going to do it quickly. And I believe the domino that's going to finally start this this ride in motion here is going to be on Wednesday, monetary policy. So we will see how that goes. I'll update you as that comes in for all of our members, obviously. And away we go. UJ talking about this real quick, and again, if we do see higher prices in the dollar, we should say we should see UJ, US yen, pop higher, and take out this high here. Certainly, you can come up and you see they have a couple of double tops up there. They may want to reject a little bit from here. They've been in a pretty tight range here for the past 2 weeks, and not really wanting to do it. Today they did have a chance to come down and rejected fairly quickly. Right off of these highs in here, you can see there. So that's, in my opinion, good news. I think that's, as long as you don't see price starting to run lower, certainly not trying to get below this low here. I might give this thing a little bit of a benefit of the doubt and say, well, if they trade all the way back down to, 111 big figure, that it could still remain bullish. But what would change my opinion is if we lost this low rate here, then that would change my opinion of this thing, and the hopes of this thing being bullish. So that's kind of my line in the sand right there for UJ, but I don't think it's going to get a chance to get down there. Worst case scenario, it might come down and sort of trade to the middle of this range here at 111, maybe 30. But I think that this top of this consolidation range here is going to act as pretty decent support, and we probably will see this pop. But I'm not going to put a trade on or do anything with UJ until after those monetary policy news releases come out, and then we can look at getting on something on UJ, and hopefully see a decent trend on that one. But you can see this stop run down here, that was pretty immense, and then they filled that in very, very quickly. So this run lower here was very brief, and I think they're going to ultimately try to run these highs up in here would be, I think, the targets going forward, especially if we see bullish dollar. And you can see, like, it failed. Like, this high comes in way above there, and this high here fails to get above this high here, so they could just be making another run. If we go out on the weekly, you can see pretty bullish, price structure on that. And if we go out to a monthly, obviously, you can see it's actually kind of right in the middle of this range is what they're in right now. And they just came down from a very, very low range back in 2011. And since then, I've been on a nice push higher. And then price came down here, swept the lows under here. And since then, obviously, it's been sort of compressing again. Look at this, talking about wedges. Here's another wedge for you. Now, you look at that and you say, well, they're probably going to be coming down to the end of this wedge here very soon. And they will probably start to let this price buck again. And we're going to see some very large expanded ranges. And I think there's a good chance that they could take it higher. But again, that all depends on US dollar, and that is way out in the future. So we're not too worried about anything like that for now. But that is about it. I'm not going to talk about Australian dollar because Aussie isn't really doing anything. It's sitting sideways for now. So you can see the extended consolidation that it's been in since last August. Nothing really excites me. This was pretty interesting right here. But as a stop run going lower, but nothing until it starts to get out of this range here is got my interest on Australian dollar. So I'm going to hold off on that one. Talking about crude oil quickly, and I mentioned, if any of you caught my recorded session from earlier on Monday, that I believe crude oil is starting to hit the crux or the apex of this swing high, and there's really only one other level that I believe would be of interest to the upside if we don't see a retracement first, would be the 86.44 level on the high side. I can't see them starting to get all the way back up in here. Eventually I think they will, but you look at this price trend here and it's a very, very mature. It's starting to get, in my opinion, it needs to come back down and gather some more support lower, and this level right here has kind of got my eye on it as for them to come back down and revisit. But we could still see higher prices yet. If we start trading up higher than the 65 level and getting into 66, 67, good chance they're going to punch it up to 68 for sure. But just keep in mind, we are starting to come to the mature sort of trend of this run higher, and it wouldn't surprise me if they dropped price a little bit. And I'd want to see them rebalance somewhere down in here. But that remains to be seen. We can worry about that after the fact. But I think like if you are going long on crude, I am still bullish on crude, but bullish with a you know, a little bit of hesitation to be going all in on any type of crude trade until we see some measurable form of retracement on it. And then from there, I think we can start to look at reversing that and getting long again. But not that there aren't some great trades in here, but again, like I say, it's getting pretty mature, so I just want to be careful on that one. And we had a nice breakout on this guy on Sunday. This actually happened. I had a long back in here from over that I held over the weekend. Price came in here on Thursday and came back down, and I got long. I definitely didn't get the low, which kind of drove me crazy. But I got a long in here on a demo account. Of course, everything I'm talking about in here, just so you know, it's all demo. No live funds are traded or anything like that. But I got a long back in here, and I held it over the weekend, which is something I normally don't do, especially on crude oil. And you can see this is the open on Sunday, and they just started running this thing quick. My target was actually these highs right here, and it hit my target nicely. And then, you know, I put the phone away and I enjoyed the rest of my Easter Sunday, and only to go back into the charts later that night and realize that it literally ran another $1. I was like, oh, geez. Not that this wasn't a great move in here. I captured, I don't remember exactly what my entry was. It was 60, I want to say 63.80, but it might have been a little bit higher, maybe 63.90. And again, my target was up here. So I got about 80 ticks. You know, of a great move, but definitely didn't capture it all. I was just kind of looking at this as maybe they might want to pop it up and then reject. But nonetheless, decent trade to start out the week, and looking for more of that. So again, higher prices to come, I believe, is what's going to happen. Now, I see a small, let me just change this out to a better color. You know, that's still too dark. I kind of like the lighter, transparent colors, not powder blue. A little easier to see. I kind of like, they came down in here Monday as their low and rejected off of that, but so far they haven't gone anywhere. They've put a couple of highs in here, so just be careful on those highs. If they really start looking bullish and aggressive and they just run up into here, I'm going to wait to see if they do a breakout retest. Because there is a possibility that they could soup this thing, turtle soup this thing, and just pop it and drop it, and then come back down in here and retest this old consolidation level down here. Now, they did it, so I say that because if you look at this price structure, we had a big swing up into here, and they didn't return back to the original starting point, which they normally do. So they didn't give a chance to get anyone, they didn't give anybody a chance to get in on that up move there. Then we had price consolidate in here, and gave you lots of opportunity to get long. Then we had another big pop out. And what happened is they came down once, twice, 3 times back to this area here, the tops of these old consolidation levels, and then expanded and basically gave you another opportunity to get in. And then they did it again here. Now, albeit it you know, a little bit higher than what I would have liked, but they certainly came down to retest it on this candle here, and then again expanded. And then we went higher. Now, this one here, this is why I'm saying they could come back down and revisit this consolidation area, because they never came back down to rebalance price back down here. So I believe ultimately when we start to hit the highs, wherever it's going to be, 68, 69, 70, I don't know. But I think they could come back down and certainly trade lower here, and this would act as support, and we could see a pop from there. So we didn't see it there, but again, small consolidation level here, popped out of it, came back down, retested those old highs, and now we're doing it again. So consolidate, pop out. I'd like to see them come back down and retest back down to 80, 68, 80 on the downside. I'm sorry, 64.80. On the downside. So I'm not going to get long yet. I want to see what they want to do here. Yeah, and again, by waiting like that, you run the risk of something like this happening where they never come back down to do it. So certainly that's sort of one of the downfalls of that breakout strategy. But again, and I would have been, like I say, I got long in here and it hit my target and I was out. But certainly, if you got long in here, hold your trade, and hey, good on you. You know, see if it'll hold out until 64. I don't know. But that's, again, like I said, I'd like to see it drop back down to 64.80, and then away we go. So that's sort of what that looks like. That's right back down to this blue shaded area down here. Again, they tried to get down here and failed miserably, and basically they haven't gone anywhere here. So what I'd be looking for personally is something like this. You know, run up wherever it's going to go. I don't know how high it's going to be. I've got my suspicions, but I'd like to see something like this happen, and then we trade higher going into the rest of the end of the month. That's what I'd like to see happen. But crude's kind of been driving me crazy, because you kind of get these one-day sort of one-sided runs, and it just goes, you know, look at that. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours just straight up price. It never came back once. It did it here, not so much here, and, you know, again, did it here, right in there. So it really is susceptible to those one-day big movers, and they never come back down and rebalance price at all, which kind of drives me crazy on crude oil. And then you get like 2-3 days of just sideways price action, 2-3 days of sideways price action, you know, 2-3 days of sideways, and then again just boom boom, big runner out of nowhere, and you know, away we go. So anyway, that's sort of my thoughts. This may not happen here. It could certainly just roll over, but I will be looking. I'm not going to take a long in here or anything like that. I want to see weights. Might take a couple days for it to materialize. I want to see them come back down and try and get that. So that's really about all I got for you guys. I'm going to wrap this one up. So I opened this up to the public today, just for sort of a one-time thing, just so everyone out there. We used to do these all live for the public for free. Did that for about a year, and then obviously we closed it down to members only. So if you're new to this, check us out at f45trading.com. And you come check out our options. We do this 4 days a week for our members, live analysis. I do it Tuesdays. Dave comes in, does Wednesdays. I do it Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Dave comes in Wednesdays, Fridays, and does the same analysis. And Dave's I focus mainly on Forex. Dave focuses a lot on S&P, bonds, and gold, and some other markets. So that's sort of what you get. But like I say, go check us out at f45trading.com. Hope you liked what you saw this evening, and hopefully it helps your trading a little bit, gives you a little bit of idea and some insight as to sort of what my thoughts are, and like I say, hopefully it'll help you out a bit. So if you like what you saw, go check us out there, and for all of our members, we'll catch up to you live in the chat room for Tuesday. We'll be back in. We'll be hunting for some trades going into the rest of the week. So thanks again for joining us. Have a great evening.